Hi guys, today we're going to learn about equivalent fractions, writing them as decimals and fractions with tenths place and hundredths place. So you'll notice this chart that you have in front of you. You see a column for decimal, you see a column for fraction as tenths, and then fraction as hundredths. So if I have the decimal 3/10, I could write it as 3/10, but it is actually also recognized as 31/100ths. Because technically when you're drawing that, you have 3 of those complete bars shaded. Or 7/10 is 7/10. To write an equivalent fraction, I multiply the numerator and the denominator by 10, and I will get 70/100ths. Or if I have 1 and 2/10, I have 1 and 20/100ths. But in this case, this last one down here, I have 1 and 2/100ths. It cannot be written as tenths, but it can be written as 1 and 2/100ths. So let's see how to do this for 9/3. One way to write 6/10 as an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. So when I shade this in, I would shade in 6/10. 4, 5, 6. But if I have it out of hundredths, I'm still shading that same amount. It's just separated into smaller pieces. So I have 60/100ths. Or another way to look at it is 6/10 is 6 times 10 and 10 times 10, which is 60/100ths. And then to write 6/10 as hundredths, I have 0 and 6/10. If I look at 30/100ths as an equivalent decimal, I'm going to show 30/100ths in a place value chart. Looks like this. 30/100ths is equivalent to 3/10. So I can write 30/100ths as 3/10. Another way to write it is a fraction. So I can write 30/100ths as a fraction. 0.30 is the same as 30/100ths. 30/100ths written as a fraction is 30 out of 100. So I can write 30/100ths as an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 10. This time I'm going to make it into tenths. So when I think about that, if I have 30/100ths, how do I get this 100 to get to 10? I divide my numerator and denominator by 10. 30 divided by 10 is 3. 100 divided by 10 is 10. So Jasmine collected 30/100ths, or 3/10 liter of water. Here's some examples. Write the number as hundreds in fraction form and decimal form. So I'm going to change from 7/10, I'm going to write it as hundredths. In order to do that, I multiply my numerator and denominator by 10, and I get 70/100ths. If I write it as a decimal, I have 70/100ths. And the next one, it's written as a decimal as 5/10. So that's 50/100ths. Or I write it as a decimal as 50/100ths. And my last one, 3/10. Remember, my goal is to multiply. I'm increasing it to 100 or hundredths. So I want to multiply it by 10 over 10. And when I do that, I come up with 30/100ths, or as a decimal, 30/100ths. In 5, 6, and 7, it's the opposite. I'm going to write the number as tenths. So I'm going to